She left behind her shoes, her bike, her wallet, and vanished without a trace. On a sweltering afternoon, August 12, 2013, Tiffany Daniels' silver SUV quietly crossed the Bob Sikes Bridge, headed towards Santa Rosa Island. It was the last time anyone ever saw her. No cries for help, no signs of a struggle, just a vehicle parked quietly near the beach, and a cold, creeping sense of dread that would haunt her loved ones forever. On the back seat, her favorite sneakers. In the trunk, her wallet, her phone, even her bicycle. But Tiffany herself, gone as if she'd never existed. No one knows why she left work early that day. No one knows what she was looking for as she drove across that bridge at dusk. And more than a decade later, one question remains unanswered. Where did Tiffany Daniels go? Tiffany Heather Daniels was born on March 11, 1988, the youngest child in a quiet, tight-knit family in the coastal city of Pensacola, Florida. To her neighbors, she was a gentle soul, an artist with a warm smile and long curly hair, often tied loosely behind her. Tiffany loved the ocean. She loved art, and she loved the way the evening breeze danced through the windows of the tiny wooden house she called home. She worked in the theater department at Pensacola State College, part of the backstage crew that made student productions come to life. She wasn't the kind of person who demanded attention, but her absence left a void no one could ignore. Tiffany was the one quietly painting sets, hammering props, adjusting stage lights. She stayed late, rarely complained, and always made sure the show went on. Outside of work, she rode her bike to the beach, painted, and wandered through little handmade craft shops. Tiffany had a thing for old, forgotten places, peeling paint, creaky rocking chairs, the sound of wind hissing through the ancient vent in her rented apartment off E. Bobe Street. Sometimes, she'd spend an entire evening painting nothing but the way sunset light spilled across her ceiling. Her personality was soft, but she wasn't fragile. When her landlord said no pets, Tiffany rescued a stray dog anyway. She had lived in different cities, worked odd jobs, from selling vegan food to working at summer camps, just to chase her passion for art. Her mother and sister often said, "Tiffany is one of a kind." In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Tiffany had taken in an older roommate named Gary. He was recently back in Pensacola after a rough patch in Texas and needed a place to stay. Tiffany didn't know him well, but that didn't stop her. She believed everyone deserved a second chance. Around that same time, her longtime boyfriend had moved to Austin to begin an arts program. They hadn't officially broken up, but the distance left a quiet emptiness in her life. One friend noted she seemed quieter than usual, though no one found it odd. Tiffany was always private with her feelings. On the morning of August 12th, Gary later recalled hearing the front door open around 5 a.m., then close again. He figured Tiffany had gone for an early workout, like she sometimes did. But by the time he got up, she wasn't home. Later that day, Tiffany showed up to work as usual. No one knew it would be the last time they ever saw her. And there was one thing, something even her own family didn't find out, until it was far too late. Monday, August 12th, 2013. The sky was clear, the heat oppressive, the kind of sweltering southern summer day that sticks to your skin. Tiffany left home around 8 a.m. for work, like any other day. She wore jeans, a long-sleeve t-shirt, carried her backpack, and brought a packed lunch she'd made herself. But something was off. That day's temperature was pushing 95 degrees, and Tiffany, who usually dressed light, chose a gray, long-sleeve shirt. Around 11 a.m., she made a quick call to her ex-boyfriend in Austin, Texas. The call only lasted a few minutes. He later said she sounded fine, calm, not scared, not upset. They talked casually about errands, some items she was planning to mail, nothing out of the ordinary. That afternoon, at Pensacola State College, Tiffany told her supervisor she'd be taking a few days off to handle some personal things. She didn't say what. When asked how long she'd be gone, she just smiled and shook her head. At 4:43 p.m., security cameras captured her walking out of the building. That was the last confirmed sighting of Tiffany Daniels. No drama, no one following her, no screams, just a quiet exit into the humid afternoon. But within hours, things started to unravel. At 7:51 p.m., a traffic camera picked up Tiffany's silver Toyota 4Runner crossing the Bob Sikes Bridge, heading out towards Santa Rosa Island. The image was too blurry to tell who was driving, male or female, it was unclear, but the plates matched. It was her car. No one knew why Tiffany was headed that way. She hadn't mentioned plans to go to the beach. The sun was setting. That area gets eerily deserted after dark. Not exactly a place you'd expect a young woman to drive alone. Especially not Tiffany, who didn't like feeling isolated. She hadn't packed a swimsuit, no camping gear, nothing to suggest a trip. She simply drove off and didn't come back. Her phone went silent that night. No texts, no calls. And the next day, Tiffany Daniels didn't show up to work. 2 days passed. Her family grew anxious. It wasn't the unanswered calls or the empty social media that first raised alarms. It was the silence. Tiffany always left a note, a message, a post, something. Now, nothing. They called Gary, her roommate. He said he heard the front door open early Monday morning, around 5 a.m., then close. He assumed she'd gone for a workout, but after that, she was gone. Calls to friends, coworkers, anyone who might have seen her, came up empty. Everyone had a piece of the story, but no one had the whole picture. Then, on August 20th, 8 days after she vanished, a police officer on routine patrol spotted an SUV parked in the white sands near the far edge of Pensacola Beach. It was a silver Toyota 4Runner, same plates, same model. It was Tiffany's car. The doors were locked, no signs of forced entry, but what was inside only deepened the mystery. Her sneakers, clean, neatly placed, sat on the back seat. Her phone was shut off, resting in its case. Her wallet still had cash, ID, driver's license, nothing missing. Her fold-up bicycle, the one she often used to cruise the beach trails, was still in the trunk. Unused. No blood, no struggle, but no explanation. Her family rushed to the scene, and immediately they knew. This wasn't like Tiffany. She would never leave her phone. She would never leave her wallet. And she definitely wouldn't leave her shoes behind. If she planned to bike, the bike wouldn't still be folded up in the trunk. Police later discovered 2 unknown fingerprints inside the vehicle. They didn't match Tiffany, not Gary, not anyone close to her. To this day, the identity of the person, or people, those prints belonged to remains unknown. That SUV had been sitting there for 8 days, under the southern sun, kissed by ocean wind. Inside, everything remained untouched, as if time itself had frozen. At the very moment Tiffany Daniels disappeared, she was never seen again. At first, police floated a simple theory. Maybe Tiffany left on her own. She was free-spirited, independent, someone who occasionally took spontaneous road trips to clear her mind. But her family pushed back, hard. Tiffany might have been dreamy, but she wasn't irresponsible. She never missed work, and if she were going anywhere, she'd always tell someone. The traffic cam recorded her vehicle crossing the Bob Sikes Bridge at 7:51 p.m., but the footage was too blurry to identify the driver. The real puzzle wasn't the destination. It was the missing time. From the moment Tiffany left work at 4:43 p.m. to the moment her SUV appeared on that bridge, more than 3 hours had passed, and no one knows where she was. That blank window became the darkest gap in the entire case. Then came another unsettling detail, where her car was found. It was parked near a remote sand lot, right up against a fence at the far end of the beach road, a place few people go after sunset. It wasn't a spot Tiffany ever liked. She preferred places full of life. Public beach trails, coffee shops, her favorite downtown art studio. For her to drive out to such a quiet, isolated patch of sand, leave everything behind, and disappear. It didn't add up, not to anyone who knew her. And then there was one tiny thing, something that haunted her parents endlessly. Tiffany had brought her lunchbox with her that morning, but when the SUV was found, it was missing. Not in the trunk, not under the seat, gone. Had someone eaten with her? Did she leave the car for a moment? Or was there never a lunchbox at all? Her roommate, Gary, was interviewed by police. He insisted Tiffany hadn't shown any signs of distress in the days before. She was upbeat, maybe a little quieter than usual since her boyfriend had moved away, but there was nothing alarming. He also made it clear they weren't dating. They didn't fight. They mostly kept to themselves. Police found no reason to suspect him, and officially, he was never treated as a person of interest. But then came a quiet voice from Tiffany's past. In an off-the-record conversation with a local journalist, a friend recalled something Tiffany had once said, something that didn't seem important at the time. A few weeks before she vanished, Tiffany mentioned feeling like someone had been entering the house at night. She'd said she heard the door open around 5 a.m. She had even painted something, a red glow, a cracked doorway, a shadowed figure lurking just out of sight. No one knows what happened to that painting. Roughly a week after Tiffany's car was found, a local man named William came forward, nervous, unsure if what he saw even mattered. Around 6 a.m. on August 13th, just hours after Tiffany's car crossed the bridge, he had been walking near the nearby nature preserve when he spotted a man standing beside a silver 4Runner. The man was shirtless, wearing red athletic pants, slim build, short hair. He had the back hatch open and appeared to be rummaging inside. Then he walked quickly toward a trail that led into the pine woods. William thought nothing of it at the time, just another early morning camper maybe. But when Tiffany's story hit the news and he saw the SUV on TV, he realized that was the car. Police searched the area but found nothing useful. No cameras, no tracks. The man William saw became just another shadow, lost in the morning mist. And then a call from another state froze Tiffany's family in place. In Metairie, Louisiana, over 300 miles from Pensacola, a waitress at a roadside diner told police she had seen someone who looked exactly like Tiffany. It was only a few days after the disappearance. The young woman had entered the diner with two others, one older woman, one younger, but she never spoke. What the waitress remembered was her eyes. She stared at me for a long time. Her eyes were red, puffy. It was like she was trying to tell me something without saying a word. The waitress didn't report it right away. She hadn't heard about Tiffany's disappearance until weeks later. But when she saw her photo online, she was nearly certain that was her. Police asked for security footage from the diner, but it had already been erased. No images, no timestamp, just one person's memory in a small southern town. Tiffany's parents drove to Louisiana that same week. They passed out flyers, knocked on doors, checked hospitals, bus stations. Nothing. No one had seen her. No trace she had ever been there. But the sighting introduced a new theory, more painful and more terrifying. What if Tiffany didn't disappear willingly? What if she's still alive somewhere, but unable to speak? What if those two women in that diner were the last people to see her? When the media picked up Tiffany's story, the calls poured in. Tips, sightings, strange encounters, all flooding the Pensacola Police Department. But one name kept surfacing quietly, again and again, in those conversations. Ruben. No one seemed to know his full name. He was described as quiet, soft-spoken, usually barefoot, always wearing red track pants. Locals said he lived in the woods near the beach, or sometimes in an old, abandoned cabin. He had been seen wandering the dunes, near the very spot where Tiffany's SUV was found. Police had spoken to Ruben once, months before. A tourist had called, worried he was bothering visitors. But when officers checked, they found no cause to arrest him. He wasn't doing anything illegal. Later, when a detective asked Ruben if he had seen anything on the night of August 12th, he shook his head, said he didn't remember. No evidence, no reason to detain him. The conversation ended there. But to Tiffany's family, it wasn't Ruben's presence that haunted them. It was how quickly he was dismissed. Ruben, a black man, homeless, without ID, without a voice. He was never treated as a serious suspect. When the family asked about him, they were told, "There's nothing solid to investigate." But what if he had been the last person near her car? What if he was the man William had seen that morning? Tiffany's mother remembered one detail clearly. During her first visit to the beach, she had seen a trail of faint, barefoot footprints in the sand, just steps from the SUV. She asked an officer. The reply? The wind's blown through, nothing conclusive. Local activists started asking the hard questions. If Ruben had been white, would he have been questioned more thoroughly? If Tiffany had been black, would the case have received this much attention? The answers didn't come. But one truth stood unshaken. Someone had been by that car. Someone had opened the hatch. Someone had walked away without leaving a single clear trace. In a case built on fragments, overlooking a figure like Ruben may have buried the truth forever. There were no signs of a struggle, no high-res footage, no confirmed witnesses. Tiffany's disappearance began to feel like a portrait, with half the canvas missing. Every theory plausible, none of them complete. One of the most haunting questions still lingers. Did Tiffany go to the beach by choice? Or did someone tell her to? Her phone logs showed no calls after 4:30 p.m. that day. But that didn't mean she was alone. It didn't mean she wasn't being followed, or that someone didn't meet her on the way. Why did she leave work saying she needed a few days off? Words that seemed light at the time now echo like a missed signal. Some old friends recalled how Tiffany had once said she wanted to disappear for a while, just to hear the wind and the waves. But would someone like her, artistic, sentimental, take her wallet, her phone, her bike, and leave them all behind in a remote spot? Without a word, police found no online activity, no bank transactions, no signs of movement. No one just starts over without leaving a single trace, unless they weren't the one who chose to leave. That's when a terrifying theory emerged, voiced not by law enforcement, but by an independent investigator. What if Tiffany was a victim of human trafficking? What if she was lured in, then taken? The sighting of the woman who looked like Tiffany in Louisiana made that idea hard to shake, especially when you consider the patterns. In similar cases, victims often vanish with no ID, cross state lines, and are silenced by any means necessary. Another question still gnaws. If someone else was driving her car, why aren't there more camera angles? The Bob Sikes Bridge has toll booths. It has surveillance. But police only released one frame, one blurry snapshot showing the vehicle leaving Pensacola. No one knows what happened after that. Tiffany's family asked to see all the footage. They were told the system automatically overwrites after 48 hours. That single missing clip might have held the answer. In the end, this case is filled with what-ifs. What if the cameras were clearer? What if someone took Ruben more seriously? What if Tiffany had been believed to be in danger sooner? But when every what-if is left too late, it's the silence that ends up screaming the loudest. Every missing person case has a breaking point, a moment when everything once believed to be true suddenly stops making sense. In Tiffany Daniels' case, that moment came at the end of 2014, over a year after she vanished, when a group of independent investigators joined forces with her family to re-examine everything. The files, the calls, the overlooked witness statements, every seemingly minor detail. What they uncovered wasn't new evidence. It was contradiction, unresolved, unexplained. Take William's account, for instance, the man who said he saw someone near Tiffany's car on the morning of August 13th. His original statement placed the sighting around 6 a.m., but when re-interviewed, he hesitated. Said it could have been closer to 7, maybe even later. That 1 hour gap meant everything. If it happened at 6 o'clock, the man could have been there from the night before. But if it was 7:30, Tiffany might have still been alive after 7:51 p.m. when her SUV was seen on the bridge. A single hour could rewrite the entire timeline. Then came the bicycle. For years, her family insisted Tiffany had no plans to go to the beach. She hadn't packed swimwear, hadn't told anyone. But her ex-boyfriend remembered a call from a few days earlier. Tiffany had mentioned wanting to bike somewhere off the beaten path. At the time, he hadn't thought much of it. But now, those words struck differently. Had she been planning a quiet ride and something went wrong? Or was she already feeling watched? In searching for somewhere hidden, even the location of the SUV, once thought to be a random stretch of sand, came into question. An investigator uncovered that the exact spot where her vehicle was found, near the fence at the dead end, had once been a known meeting place, a drop-off point. Had Tiffany arranged to meet someone there? Or did someone else drive the car and stage the scene? And the fingerprints, once considered the biggest lead, still matched no one in the federal database. No match, no momentum. Piece by piece, what once felt like fact dissolved into a tangled web of possibilities. Overlapping, contradicting, canceling each other out. Did Tiffany leave on her own? Was she lured? Or did she fall into the hands of someone too dark to imagine? By the 3rd year of her disappearance, the search began to shift from hope to endurance. Her family, who once organized walks, printed t-shirts, handed out flyers across the South, slowly began facing a truth no one wants to say aloud. They might never find Tiffany. They didn't stop fighting, but they understood something now. That sometimes the worst thing isn't death. It's not knowing what happened. Then came a phone call, early 2017. A man driving through rural Alabama called the tip line. He swore he saw a woman who looked exactly like Tiffany, walking down a dirt road with an older man. She wore a gray long-sleeve shirt, jeans, long hair, sunken eyes. As the man slowed down, he said the older man yanked her into the bushes and disappeared. Police searched the area for nearly 24 hours. No woman, no man, no sign. But that one sighting reopened the family's deepest fear that Tiffany might still be alive, being held, controlled, forced into silence for all these years. And if that's true, then every day that passes is another day she's not free. More tips followed. A girl at a gas station, a girl on a bus, a girl seen at a remote motel with two strangers. Each one looked like Tiffany. None had proof. None could be confirmed. Hope would surge, then collapse under the weight of uncertainty. One former FBI investigator brought in by the family said it plainly. If this is a trafficking case, then it's likely she was taken out of the country within the first 48 hours. Her family didn't want to believe that. They held on to the belief that Tiffany was strong enough to find her way back. But they also couldn't deny the truth, that in this world, kindness, art, and gentle eyes can't always protect you. And there was one last piece, one final image still unexplained. In a sketch Tiffany drew just days before she vanished, there's a bridge stretching across the sea, eerily similar to the Bob Sikes Bridge. Below it, the shadow of a woman walking alone, back turned, face obscured, her silhouette stretching long over the water. Her family doesn't know what she meant to capture, but they keep the drawing as a reminder that some signs we only understand once it's already too late. More than a decade has passed since Tiffany Daniels disappeared. The waves still crash along the shores of Santa Rosa Island. The wind still hums across the Bob Sikes Bridge, carrying with it the quiet breath of those still waiting. Her silver Toyota 4Runner, once filled with questions, with clues, now sits in storage, a cold piece of evidence sealed away in a local evidence locker. And Tiffany has no grave. Every year, on August 12th, her family holds a small remembrance, not to mourn someone lost, but to remind the world that she is still remembered. Her mother always brings that final sketch, the one with the bridge, and sets it beside a bundle of wildflowers and Tiffany's worn-out sneakers. There are days I believe she's still alive, her mother says. And there are nights when I'd give anything just to know what really happened. And maybe that is what makes the disappearance of Tiffany Daniels so haunting. Not that it was too strange, but that it was too silent. No screams in the night, no signs of violence, no goodbye note, no suspects, no arrests, no trial. Just a girl who vanished from the world as gently as a late summer breeze and left an entire community grasping at questions with no answers. People used to say Tiffany was one of a kind. Now, those words ring more true than ever, because no one disappears the way she did. No trace, no reason, no farewell, and no one is remembered the way she is. Through her art, her story, and a silence that has echoed for decades. Somewhere out there, Tiffany might still be alive, or maybe she slipped away in a moment no one ever saw. But whatever happened, the people who love her still haven't let go.